So I always used to get anxiety. Then I would get anxiety about getting anxiety. It was anxiety all the way down. Hi, I'm Nikki Case, and this is an interactive explanation about neurons. Yep, you can actually interact with this, so why don't you try that thing and click on a neuron and see what happens. Yeah, watch how the signals propagate down from neuron to neuron to neuron. Kind of mesmerizing, isn't it? Try clicking some more. Of course, this is a simplified model, but that's roughly how neurons work. One thought fires the next and so on, but in the anxious brain, this is what happens. Innocent thoughts connect to anxious thoughts. Personally, I used to be so afraid of being seen as a failure, of being close to people, and of holes. Because, I don't know why, but tightly clustered holes just kinda creep me out, you know? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, how do we learn these fears in the first place? Well, to explain that, let me get rid of all this and give you this. Hebbian learning. This is a rule of thumb that neuroscientists use to describe how neurons make new connections. Basically, if you fire one neuron, then fire another neuron, the first neuron will connect to the second neuron. Try it out for yourself. Too slow. You didn't click fast enough. Try again. And that's how we learn. Of course, we don't learn that quickly in real life. I sped this simulation up. But still. Now play around and make a few more connections. Maybe make a chain or something. This learning rule is why, if you were bitten by a dog as a kid, you might develop a fear of dogs. Because your dog neuron fired, then your pain neuron fired. And thus, dog connected to pain. Anyway, if that's how we learn, here's how we unlearn. Anti-Hebbian learning. Another rule of thumb neuroscientists have. So, if you already have a connection from one neuron to another, and you fire the first neuron without firing the second neuron, the connection weakens. Again, try it out. Now wait for it. And look, the connection's weaker. Do that again, and this time the connection will be totally killed. And this unlearning rule is why if you have a fear of dogs and you're exposed to friendly dogs over and over again, you might unlearn that fear. Dog neuron gets fired without the pain neuron getting fired, and therefore the connection weakens. So now that you know how we learn and unlearn, let's revisit this. I want you to retrain this brain. Rewire, reconnect each of these three things from feeling fear to feeling safe. I still don't like holes. One down, two more to go. Two down, one more to go. And you did it. See, the trick is to expose yourself to what you're afraid of, but in a safe manner. What you just did is called exposure therapy. It's one of the most evidence-based backed therapies out there for treating specific phobias, PTSD, and other anxiety disorders. Face your fears in a safe space. Again, in real life, rewiring yourself is not easy, it's not quick, but it can be done. I promise you, I'm proof. It can be done. Hey, huge thanks to all my Patreon supporters, because without them, I wouldn't be able to make these weird interactive things and I'd probably be forced to get a real job. So if you'd like to help me keep making stuff like this and be credited in the next thing I make, check out my Patreon. The music you're listening to was made by the wonderful Fiona, who I've collaborated with before on 2 projects that I failed to finish. For another interactive explanation, check out Parable of the Polygons. It was a collaboration I did with Vihart, yes, that Vihart, about systemic bias and diversity. And remember, this interactive explanation was just an introduction. So if you want to learn more, definitely check out the further reading in the description below. Or you could just play with the sandbox on the left because it's pretty fun. Either way, thank you so much for watching. Playing? Watching? Plotching. Thank you so much for plotching.